My mom, also a type 1 diabetic, would always call diabetes the sneaky disease. And after living through diabetic ketoacidosis, also known as DKA, 10 years ago, I completely understand why now. For those who are new, hello, my name's Olivia, and I've been a type 1 diabetic for over 20 years. And in that 20 years, I have done my best to make living with diabetes more sustainable and more enjoyable. More so in the past decade, since my issue with diabetic ketoacidosis, I have really zoned in on making the most out of my life because 10 years ago, when I went into diabetic ketoacidosis, I almost lost my life. So nothing like that to make you realize how precious life is and how hard you have to work at it. So I want to come on here and share with you, as an experienced diabetic, some of the signs that I should have recognized with diabetic ketoacidosis to help other diabetics do the same. To start, I'm going to tell you guys about kind of what led up to my issue with diabetic ketoacidosis. And that was years and years of neglect of my diabetes. I got diagnosed when I was 12 years old. And before that, my mom was also a type 1 diabetic. So I just grew up in a diabetic household. And I was very ignorant to the fact of all the life changes you had to make when living with diabetes. So when I was diagnosed, I believe I was in 8th grade, I refused to make any changes. I continued to eat what I want and do what I want. And on top of it all, I a lot of times refused to take medication. So fast forward years and years, because obviously that was in 8th grade. For years and years, I did not do a great job at managing my blood sugars. So when time came for me to start college, I was 18 years old. I enjoyed myself even more, needless to say, because then now you have alcohol in the picture. Now you have the fact I can drive to McDonald's and fast food places. So things started to escalate. But then when I was 21 years old, with kind of the icing on top of the cake, my mom had passed away of diabetic heart disease. So it hit me really hard. And being said, at that point, I almost took the mindset of, why does it even matter? Why does taking care of yourself even matter if that's where you end up? My mom was 56 when she passed away. So to 21-year-old Olivia, I was very naive, and I decided to just stop taking all my medicine and to start living my best life. So I was eating fast food daily. I was eating regular cake. I remember going to McDonald's and getting regular sweet tea. And to top it off, not taking any medicine, it was bad. So that was in September. I remember once my mom passed away, I made that big life change, and hands down, worst life change I had made. Because although I was not taking great care of myself up to that point, it was a lot better than not taking any medicine at all. So pretty quickly from that point on, I started feeling like crap. And September, and now we're in January, fast forward a few months, I went into diabetic ketoacidosis, and thankfully my then boyfriend, now husband, had rescued me and found me, and now obviously I'm in great shape. That experience changed me so much. But I want to talk about some of the things that happened from that point when I stopped taking my medication, when my sugar started to get sky high, to the point when I actually went into diabetic ketoacidosis, and what I wish I had done about it. So to start, you feel awful when your sugar is high. And when I was found in diabetic ketoacidosis, my sugar was over 900. So I remember the last month before the big day when it actually happened, when I fell asleep and didn't wake up, I remember being so thirsty. And I'm not talking thirsty as in, I just did a workout, I just ran outside, I need to have a drink of water. I mean uncontrollable 24/7 thirst, waking up through the night to get a drink, waking up in the night to use the bathroom, because if you're drinking a lot, you can sure bet you're using the bathroom a lot. They were two huge signs that diabetic ketoacidosis was coming. The incredible need for a drink constantly was huge. So I know, because now that I'm an adult and I'm also a proud mom of 2 kids, that's the first sign I'm looking for when it comes to diabetes, is that extreme thirst and the extreme urination, because that was one of the biggest signs with me. Another really big thing with me was I was so irritable, and almost on like a comical level, my husband always jokes about how he didn't think we were going to work out in the beginning because he said everything just made you mad or upset. And it was so hard to manage your feelings because you always felt things so strongly. And that was another huge sign of your sugar being high, which I would assume is to blame for the fact that you just feel so bad, that you're just snappy and you're cocking an attitude with everything. But the extreme thirst and the anger issues, also the lack of energy, is another really big sign of diabetic ketoacidosis. In the moment, when the days leading up to my big issue, I just wanted to sleep all of the time. And I could sleep all of the time. I remember I was in college. If I wasn't in class or if I wasn't working, I was just sleeping. I had no desire to go out and do anything. I had no desire to wake up. I just literally could sleep all of the time. And that could also be partially because of depression, lost my mom, wanting to sleep all the time. But I do associate a large amount of that to my DKA that was happening. And then another really big sign that still haunts me to this day, because I wish I had paid more attention to it in the moment, was I remember if I was on my feet for an extended period of time, my ankles would swell to the point where if I took my socks and shoes off, you could see how swollen my ankles were. I remember I was a server, so after serving shifts, I would have to put my feet up at the end of the day to try to get my ankles back down to size. And that was because my kidneys were failing. So even before I went into an official diabetic DKA, I was in kidney failure and I didn't even know it. And that is so scary when you think about it. And the ankle swelling was going on for months before it actually happened. It's kind of a real weird thing to even share here on YouTube, but I will share it because I'm not sure if anyone's ever experienced an experience like this with someone when they pass. But when my mom first passed away, I would get very vivid dreams of her having conversations with me or talking to me about things. And one of those things I remember, one of the dreams I remember very vividly, was I was laying on my couch after a shift at work, and I had my feet up, and she was standing next to the couch and said, "You can't do this anymore. You can't hide this from me anymore. I know you haven't been taking care of yourself now. I can see it. You need to do better." And she flicked my feet off the top of the couch, and I woke up. And how haunting is that? And I'm not sure if other people, I would not say I'm the biggest believer in ghosts and all of that, but I do believe that that dream had some meaning, whether it was from my own mind or maybe I was lucky and my mom was visiting me in my dreams. I do feel like that was her way of looking out for me. However, in the moment, I didn't take that dream very seriously, and I did nothing. I changed nothing about my lifestyle. And it was hard because I'm not sure if any other diabetic has experienced this before, but once you go so far down a road of not taking care of yourself, it's very belittling and embarrassing to then go to a doctor and say, "Hey, my A1C is 15, make me better." I mean, I know that they would make me better, but it takes a lot of pride to do that. And 21-year-old Olivia was not willing to do that. So I can sit here and admit to you guys on camera that the only way in that moment I was going to get help was if I went into DKA. And I think part of me knew that and was okay with that because I was in such a shattered state of mind. And this is a very sensitive subject here on YouTube or just with anyone. It's a very vulnerable conversation, so I hope you guys bear with me here, because if any of you are experiencing that yourself, diabetes is so hard to manage and it's complicated, especially when you have bigger feelings going on above the diabetes. So always know it's okay to ask for help. I know that it's a belittling feeling and it takes some of your pride, but it's so important to be able to ask for help. And unfortunately, 21-year-old Olivia did not want to do that. So fast forward, after the extreme thirst, you have the exhaustion. Muscle weakness was huge. Now I'm very big into the gym. I've been a runner for years. I ran through high school, I ran through college, but in that time when my sugars were so mismanaged, I couldn't do anything like that. I couldn't lift anything. I lost almost all of my muscle mass. And I remember towards the end, right before my big DKA episode, I could not even walk up my stairs to my bedroom, and I was making camp on my couch every night because I couldn't walk up the stairs. I would get so out of breath and my muscles felt so weak. So all of that was just a big sign of what was lurking. So now I'm going to fast forward to what happened when I went into DKA. So what happened, it was January 2nd. For New Year's Eve, me and my now husband, my boyfriend at the time, we ate all the food as everyone else in America does on New Year's Eve. We ate good food, we had some good drinks. I felt like crap on the first day of New Year's. I called out of work. And then that night, I was spending the night at my boyfriend's house. And side note, he was my neighbor. So I lived right across the street from where we do now. So I woke up in the middle of the night and I remember feeling sick. I threw up multiple times in his toilet, which is also another sign of DKA, getting sick. I threw up here and I wasn't connecting the dots. I said, oh, hon, I'm going to go home. I'm really just not feeling well. I don't want to get you sick. So I went across the street, and I remember walking across the street, opening my door, shutting it, and then the rest is kind of a blur. I don't remember much. I just remember being so tired and not feeling well at all, and I collapsed on my couch. And that was it. That was it. That's all that I personally remember. But I have other people to vouch for me what happened in that missing time. So the next thing I personally remember is I remember being in the hospital and a nurse rubbing my head while they're sticking a tube down my throat. That's what I remember. So I will fill you guys in on the lapse of time. What happened was that was in the middle of the night on January 2nd. So the whole night passed, and my husband started reaching out to me in the morning, boyfriend, same person, but yeah. He started reaching out to me in the morning. I wasn't answering, obviously, because I was knocked out cold on my couch. He was reaching out to me. I wasn't answering. He started getting nervous, and he reached out to his best friend who lives around the corner from us to stop in and check on me to make sure I was doing okay. So when his friend stopped in to check on me, he found me in my diabetic coma, which I believe that was around 3 or 4 p.m. So that's about 18 hours, 19 hours of being in DKA. So they found me. I remember they had said my oxygen was under 90, that my pulse was in the 20s. I was knocking on death's door. I really was. It's such a haunting feeling to know you go that close to ending your life. It's so scary. I would never want to go down that road again. So they obviously rushed me to the hospital, and there was so much stomach acid in my stomach from being unconscious for so long in DKA. They had to pump my stomach. So that's what I remember, is them putting the tube down my throat, and found out that I was in renal failure. And I was in the hospital for probably about a good week or two. And in that time, I was in acute kidney failure. I got double pneumonia from being in the hospital. And it was a mess. It was an absolute mess. My A1C in the hospital was 14.5. 14.5, and they confirmed that my blood sugar when they found me was, I believe, 920. 920. Which is wild. So the doctor, probably a good dozen doctors, had come to Jesus moments with me that, hey, you lived through this once. If you do this again, that's it. If you live through this again, that's it. If you do this again, your kidneys are done. Luckily, my DKA only caused acute kidney failure, so they bounce back on their own. Kidneys are one of those organs that can bounce back on their own, so I was very fortunate. Whereas if I did that again, if I made the decision again to let my sugars get that out of control, my life could end, or I could be on dialysis for the rest of my life. And then I remember getting out of the hospital. Me and my then boyfriend, now husband, were still together, and I was home just trying to collect everything that had happened. It was such a rough 2 weeks in the time, and in the moment it felt like torture. It felt like I had died and I was in hell. But in reality, now a decade sitting here telling you guys about it, I can acknowledge the fact that it was probably one of the best things that happened to me just because it forced me to get my life together. And I remember the one incident that really stuck with me as to why I needed to get it okay was I had to go through home physical therapy because I had hand neuropathy and feet neuropathy from the DKA. I couldn't feel my hands and feet. So I wasn't allowed to drive, and I had a home health aide come in and check on me. And she was having a conversation with me, asking me if I wanted children one day. And of course, I said, yes, I do want children one day. And she said, if you don't get your sugars in order, you're not going to be able to have children. And just the thought of not being able to become a mom scared me to the point where I realized that it's so important I get my mind together. It's so important I get myself together. I'm with a man I love. I want to start a family with him, and I can't do any of that if I keep doing this to myself. So from that point forward, I got myself together. I started taking care of my blood sugar. I found a doctor that I'm still with today that helped me get my sugars in line, helped me get my diet in line, and really changed my life. And am I sitting here and telling you guys, if you want to really fix yourselves and get on the right track, go into DKA. That will teach you a lesson, because that's definitely not what I'm saying. But for me, 21-year-old Olivia, I felt like that was kind of the closure I needed from my mom passing, from the trauma I experienced, from the lack of expertise of my blood sugars. That was what I needed to get my mind right and to get myself on track to become the person I am today. I am the mom of 2 kids. I got what I wanted. I became a mom. I became a wife. I have a life that I'm so happy with. And I don't know if that would have happened if the DKA didn't happen. But I want to come on here and share my story. It's a very haunting story. If you made it all the way to the end of this, I clap for you. Thank you for sticking to the end. But I also want to come on and share with you some of the ways I felt in that moment 10 years ago. So that way, if you guys are feeling that same way, if you're starting to feel exhausted and tired and sick and extremely thirsty and you can't sleep right, but you're sleeping all the time, go get help. Go get help, because that's the only way it's going to get better. So if you guys didn't already, please give this video a big thumbs up. I really appreciate you guys sticking to the end, listening to my whole story. If you guys want to share your personal stories down below, please feel free to do so. But if you're not comfortable leaving any of, the ups and downs of diabetes, we all know we all have stories to tell, then just leave an emoji down below to show me that you support the cause and support living with diabetes. I'll catch you guys in my next diabetic video, and I hope you guys have a beautiful, beautiful Memorial Day weekend. Bye.